Hi, buddy. Oh, my goodness. I'm getting
Ooh, he's
lots
a
of
good
kisses
ear
here.
kisser, this dog.
So, puppy biting.
Oh,
Maybe we can talk a little bit about, when you might start to see puppy
Lie
biting.
down. Girl.
First steps. What does puppy biting look like? When might it be happening?
Yeah, I think we should talk a little bit about age because, puppy biting, a lot of times when we think about puppy biting, we're talking about puppies that are like under 4 months old. Let's talk about what could happen versus what maybe is happening. So if you learn how to address puppy nipping early on, it is actually something that you can resolve within just a few training sessions in some cases, and in other cases just a few weeks. It is not something, if you know what to do and how you do it, it is not something that has to continue for months and months on end. So you don't need to be having 6, 7, 8 month old, 10-month old, 12-month old dog doing any nipping and biting at all. That being said, if you're not a professional dog trainer and if you don't really know the signs and things to look for or know how to deal with it, it would not be surprising to hear that you have a dog that's older than 6 months that is still doing some nipping and biting. Now, keep in mind, when a dog has rehearsed any bad behavior, whether it's nipping and biting, pulling on a leash, not coming when they're called, digging, you name it, if they've rehearsed it for months and months and months and months, obviously, go and lie down. That's my girl. Obviously, it's going to be a challenge to switch that dog's mindset to something that's completely different. It can be done. You can teach old dogs new tricks. But when you're listening today, if you have a very, very young puppy, you want to get on this immediately so that you can stop it before it gets too bad. If you have a dog that's, becoming a little bit older, and for this topic, I would say older would be like over 4 months. Yep. You have some work to do and you're on a bit of a time crunch as well because it is something that you want to get on quickly.
And it's going to be a very different approach.
Yes.
Very different approach.
Yeah, and I will say that, when the questions come in and we talk about different things, the age of the puppy and the training experience and stuff will sort of reflect, the type of answers that we give. We're going to talk a lot about management tonight and what you can do to set your puppy up for success. I mentioned this before we started, but it isn't just about correcting your puppy for puppy biting. Obviously, we need to be clear about our expectations, but often what happens is puppy nipping happens because people put their puppies in situations that are super easy for them to nip and bite at versus understanding how to mold and shape our dogs with different choices on how we handle them or how we manage them, whether we have a leash on, whether we don't have a leash on, whether we use a crate, whether we don't use a crate. All of those things can mold and shape our dogs to make better choices, and therefore leads to us to not have to be quite so strict about our rules about nipping and biting. So there's lots of different avenues that sort of go along with this topic, which is what makes it so complex. But age is something that is important here, but also I think anybody, regardless of your dog's age, will be able to get something from tonight's talk.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about some of the leadership mistakes that people make before we dive into the actual how-to part of it. What are some of the leadership mistakes that people often make that put the puppy in a situation, and you might be doing this right now. I know someone had mentioned my puppy's biting me right now. The choices that you make that you don't even think about.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden you've got a puppy who's nipping and biting like crazy.
Before I forget, can I just say that if your puppy is nipping and biting, they're normal. It's a very, very normal thing for puppies to do. A lot of people will say, oh, they're mouthing and they're teething and that type of thing. Sometimes they're using their mouth because they're mouthing and teething, but typically when a puppy uses their teeth or their mouth on a person, it's generally to test the waters as to whether they can communicate and control the person that way, because that's how they're used to doing it with, their brothers and sisters in the litter, or they probably test the waters with their mom at some point. So they will do that. And unfortunately, what happens is if the puppy goes up and they start nipping and biting at you, and you do things like pull your hand away, or you put a toy in their mouth, or you do things, that puppy starts to go, nipping and biting equals you taking your hand away, therefore I get do what I want, or nipping and biting means you're going to give me a fun toy, so maybe nipping and biting is a good thing. So it is something you have to be careful that you're not accidentally making worse, because your response to it is natural, unfortunately. Yep. Your response to nipping and biting needs to be unnatural. It needs to be, we'll talk about what it needs to be. So that's one thing to know, that most puppies nip and bite, and it's not because they're innately naughty or anything like that. It's just they're curious. They're trying to test things out. And it is, if they start to learn that form of communication earns them things, it will continue. And in some cases, depending on the dog's temperament and your relationship and your leadership style, it could get worse if it's not addressed. So I think that's important to say.
I know a lot of people will comment or talk a little bit about like an acquired bite inhibition. So saying like, oh yeah, well the dog needs to know how hard it can bite you. And that's something that we don't teach. You know, we
teach it. We do teach it, but we teach it
in a
not
definitive
like this.
way. Exactly. In a very definitive way. Like, you do not put teeth on people or clothes.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, you be quite definitive about it, though. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because we want it to be clear for your puppy. Because when it's clear for your puppy, they learn it faster. Yeah. And there's no question about, well, if this person is this set of rules and that person is that set of rules, like which rules do I choose? Yeah. Your dog can learn very quickly that it's not okay to nip and bite your hands, or, you know, tug on your ponytail, or, you know, whatever wild. I mean,
love a ponytail.
We've heard lots of crazy situations, but
pop your earrings out of your ears,
or tug on your pant legs. You know, that's not okay.
No.
You know, and you can be very clear about how to what your rules are. It's actually quite important to be really authoritative in the situation. You're going to show your dog exactly what you don't want, and then let them know when they're making the right choice by reinforcing those great decisions and the good behavior.
Yeah. So how do we, so bite inhibition is important. I think it is important that your puppy learns how to use their mouth in order to be respectful. We do it a number of ways, but I would say one of my favorite ways to teach it is using the game of tug. Yeah. And I think you'll see this a little bit in the video. Yeah. So we'll sort of get to it, but it's a way to teach them that, yes, you can use your mouth, you can play. My hands are going to be near the tug. My shirt's going to be near the tug, and I can definitively say, yes, let's keep playing if you're on the tug, but if that mouth turns and goes to me or my skin, I'm going to stop that play right away. I'm going to correct the puppy for that behavior, and then immediately offer the toy back. So the puppy goes, okay, that's wrong, but as soon as that toy comes out, I get to play and have some fun, and the puppy learns to, you know, bite the toy and be more careful around my skin. I know as the puppies get more experience, I can also take a toy and I can put my hands literally just the width of the dog's mouth and say, get it. And my puppy will grab right between my hands, being so careful not to touch my hands and just go for the toy, because they learn through the start and stop game what's appropriate and what's not. So that's a really, really important thing. They can learn bite inhibition, but you don't need to do it by having them test on your skin.
Absolutely. I pinned, I think, our puppy tug. This is a tool we use a lot with new puppies.
Love it.
Number one, great way to tire them out. Number two, it's a great game that involves you. Like, this toy requires you, and your dog learns that pretty quickly. The other great part is it's a great training tool to teach what you can put your teeth on, what you can't, you know, what you can be rewarded with, and we will probably reference that toy a lot in this show. So it's available somewhere on the screen, maybe just under your player window. I'm not sure. And actually, Dan can drop a link to it maybe in the chat. I want to get to the video, though. I want to start breaking down this video because there's so much gold in this video for our viewers that, you at home, you may have even watched this video before. It's even more valuable if that's the case.
Well, you didn't watch it with two hosts breaking it down even more.
That's right. Absolutely.
Speaking of which, do you have an idea of where you want to stop, or do you just want to go au naturel?
I just set it up so that we can roll it until we're ready to, and through the power of internet, computers,
so he's not
transfer there. So I'll just stop it wherever you think is appropriate.
Okay.
But this comes from a video. Let's set up this
scene?
Student dog. Yeah, because that's not in this.
So you want me to do that? That was what's
Well, you know
happening
better
there.
than I
Yes,
do.
okay. So the student's name is V, and she has a little cattle dog, a blue heeler puppy, who has been nipping and biting them a lot. He's not a bad puppy. He's a really cool puppy, actually, but typical, energetic, thinking that using his bark and his bite can kind of get him what he wants. And V hasn't really been firm enough or consistent and clear enough with her puppy for him to really understand what he's supposed to do. So we were just doing a quick private lesson to go through technique, timing, reading the puppy's body language.
Yeah, and you'll see that. You're going to
Yeah.
see all that. Yeah. So let's. I'll get this rolling so you guys can check it out.
I would say he's being slightly obnoxious, right?
Extremely, yeah.
I
So,
also said
what we
more
would do in
things
this
to her
situation-
before opening the lesson and saying slightly obnoxious. Prior to this, we were trying to have a conversation, and the puppy was just like barking and barking and barking so loud that like we couldn't even have a conversation. That's what happened just before.
Oh
this.
yeah. That's probably good to give that context.
Yeah.
The dog was
Otherwise, you're like,
barking a
wow,
lot.
Kale's like really blunt there. So there was like a good 10 minutes before this clip.
And he's used like for me, if my dogs were barking,
Yeah, I just took a section of that video
It's all good.
so that you guys know as well.
I would tell the dog quiet. And after I give the word that I want him to eventually listen to, I would apply some type of discipline. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we're going to do the discipline. There's a couple different
I said that kind of quickly, but it was really important.
Yeah, to reiterate it.
So when it comes to discipline with our puppy or teaching our puppies how to be respectful and respond to us, what we're looking for the ultimate goal down the road to be is that we can stop unwanted behaviors with simply using our voice. Verbal like or quiet or leave it or whatever it might be. But when we have puppies, they don't necessarily respect that or even know what those words mean. So what I'm basically explaining here is that when we're trying to teach the dog to respond to that, we need to first use that command that we're hoping to use, and then 1 second later, apply the appropriate information, whether that's showing the puppy how to be right, or perhaps it's showing the puppy what they're doing wrong. But we can't just do a correction. We just can't give a treat also without telling the puppy why.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, they won't be able to do it independently later.
ways that we're going to do it. So essentially, you're going to use a verbal marker when he's wrong. And in the early stages, you're going to follow that with something
Look at him
physical.
try and
Now,
bite me when
I
I
don't know
put
if
my
you just
hand
saw
on his nose.
that, but I
That's
just went to
actually
put my hand on
a good thing to say because a lot of people will take their hand and put it around the dog's muzzle and to try and get them to stop barking. And most puppies, it just aggravates them. You can see as soon as I put my hand off, he tried to bite me there.
And not that you were like trying to like hold.
No,
him.
I was just trying to like tide him over. I wasn't really technically trying to correct him or anything like that. I was just trying to talk to V.
his nose just to kind of settle him for a second so I
watch
could
him.
talk. And as soon as I went to do that, I got biting.
Sassy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just let him do this for a second so I can set the scene. And then this is no longer going to.
So I'd like to know how many of you in the chat, you know, who has a dog like this? You know, is your puppy, you know, full of energy, full of beans? You sit down on the floor with them and they just want to chomp down on every body part that they can get access to, or on your clothes or whatever. Let us know if this is the kind of struggle that you have at home.
Be allowed to happen. Okay. See it again.
Hit me
So
again.
basically,
Again,
what I'm going to
he's
do is
not
I can do
biting
a
me
couple
to hurt me
things.
here. He's biting me because he's just being a little brat, like a typical
Yeah.
bratty little
Yeah.
puppy that says, "I don't really want to sit here." And he's, for those of you, I don't know how many people know how to read body language, but you'll see all kinds of things here besides nipping and biting. A moment before he was scratching. A moment before that he was yawning. Those are two signs that says I'm a little stressed, and not in a stress like the typical meaning of stress. It's like, you're making me do something I don't want to do. And sometimes they're like avoidance behaviors. He does all kinds of them in addition to trying to nip me. All because he doesn't want to be held in that moment, which is so sad, too bad for him.
Yeah, that's reality. You know, we're going to talk a little bit
Sometimes you
tonight
gotta do that.
about there are times when you must listen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's intolerable if you're, you know, biting everyone in the house or biting me or, you know, doing some of these behaviors that could get you into trouble, could hurt someone, could hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's really important that your dog understands, like, there are things that are just totally off limits.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that.
I really like to make sure that the puppies have a well-fit collar. He does. Point for you already. It's nice and snug. If I get 2 fingers in there, he's not going to be able to flip around and do any kind of crazy acrobats. The second thing that I'm going to do is when I go to discipline him, I'm going to take my hand in his collar and I'm also going to grab a little tiny bit of his excess fur that he's going to grow into. We call this the scruff. And I'm going to hold him on either one side of his head or the other. And what's going to happen is the palm of my hand is going to sort of brace against his cheek. And why I'm being so detailed about this explanation is I need to hold him in a way that he can't nip me anymore. Now, when I do that, he is probably going to have a meltdown. Okay. Now, when I do this, I'm not going to yell or scream or do anything. I'm just going to be very quiet. And as soon as I see him start to go, I'm not getting anywhere and sort of relax, I'm going to release my grip just a little bit, not let go entirely, just release my grip. And then I'm going to praise him. So what basically I'm doing is saying, you're wrong. And when he starts to give in to me a little bit, I'm going to say, good boy, that's right. Now, in the early stages, if they haven't had this done very much,
Can I say something?
when you go to
One thing that's really interesting is eventually, and you'll see this happen if we get all the way to the end of the video, how this puppy changes. But just imagine right now if you were to, you know, sit down and hold on to your puppy for more than 5 seconds without constantly shoving treats in their face. How would they react? What's happening with this puppy is that he so badly or so firmly thinks that he should be able to just take off and run and do whatever he wants, that I'm not even doing anything to him other than just holding him with me, that he hasn't stopped for a second trying to get away from me. And that tells you a puppy that's like, I don't really feel like I have to listen to you. If I was to do that with Beeline right now, she would literally sit calm as a cucumber while my hand was in her collar until eventually I let go. She wouldn't try and fight. She wouldn't try and leave. She wouldn't be worried. She wouldn't be afraid. She would just be like, okay, cool. I'll just sit here. And puppies can do that too once you've gone through this process. And you'll see this puppy later is able to do it after he's been corrected. But just notice how busy this puppy is simply because I'm holding him. And that is a good understanding for you to kind of see, even if they're not biting you, do they just accept you holding them for a little bit? That's a good test for leadership and authority. And a lot of puppies can't do that. And this is where it starts.
Yeah.
praise them, they go for round 2, and then they go for round 3.
Sarah,
so what might need to happen, you're getting lots of this on video here. What might need to happen is I might need to go through the process a couple times.
The other thing I should
until
point out now,
Ooh, look, he's got my arm right in his mouth.
Yeah. The puppy's on a leash.
Yes.
We use a house line. You know, we use a house line in our training for a puppy this age. And something that you should be using at home as well as a house line, so that you have control over your puppy when you need it at a moment's notice.
Yep.
But it's really important that Kale does have that leash in her hand as the puppy goes to leave her. You know, she needs to be able to control the situation, and the leash is the only way to do that.
Yeah, the leash is important because I need to be able to get a proper grip on the puppy, and I need to be able to do that within an effective time. If your puppy's off leash, they can run away, and then you start to follow the dog, and then you try and chase the dog, and then you try and grab the dog, and then right away, dog's in control, the human is not. So that leash is instrumental in the success of stopping nipping and biting. Yeah, it's coming. I said a moment ago that it's coming.
Okay, so I'm going to go for it now.
Mama is putting a stop to this right now.
So my hand's in his collar. The next time he goes to bite, I'm going to correct him, and then I'm going to see what happens. Good boy. Good. Knock it off. Okay, I'm going to hold. Now, this is common. The front paws will come over. Now, see how he's bringing his front paws up? I don't lift the puppy, dangle the puppy. I don't flick the puppy. I just simply hold until he settles. And I like to use my other hand to kind of get the dog calm. Now, this is a common thing they do. They flip. I'm going to lift him up when he does that. Knock it off. That's enough. Okay, so we have some subtle behavior. I'm going to
Yeah, it's
release a
very
little
cute.
bit.
Oh, that's better.
Good boy. And now I'm going to praise.
Okay,
Good.
now you can pause it. I didn't want to interrupt it.
Yeah.
So when you first look at that, sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, what is she doing to that puppy? But we try to mimic the same type of disciplinary techniques that his mom would have done with him when he was a puppy. So using a verbal first, so mama would have growled and showed her teeth, and then she would discipline the puppy. And moms always go for that scruff area behind the head, and they do that because it's a sensitive area. The dog's beeline, stop it. It's a sensitive area. The dogs recognize it as respect and control. Also, as I indicated in the video, what happens is when I hold that dog in a specific way by having my hand both in the collar with a little bit of the fur in my hand, no matter how hard that puppy tried, he couldn't turn and actually make contact with me again. And when I hold him in a way where he feels like he can't really get anywhere, the dogs settle much, much, much more quickly. Sometimes when people aren't firm enough, and you'll see when V goes to try this in a second, she's holding sort of passively, and you can see he can feel that. So he, continues to try to see if he can wiggle his way out or nip her more because he doesn't feel the power of her hold the same way that he felt mine. But I've also done it 100,000 times more than V at this point.
V's a good student throughout this too.
Fabulous.
Responds
She
quickly,
was
very
excellent.
self-aware, which is helpful.
Yeah. Anyways, and again, you'll see the puppy tried all kinds of escape tactics. He tried putting his paws over my arm. He tried rolling over. He tried coming up a little higher. And all you saw me do is react quickly to that and try to get him back into that neutral position. And all I was doing is waiting for a millisecond of him going, ugh, and just taking a break. And at that moment, that's my sign as the leader to say, good boy, good puppy. And I respond in a really calm way.
When I'm holding the collar
Oh,
and I'm
shoot, sorry, I
disciplining,
didn't mean
what
for
I'm
that to
looking
start.
for is a couple different things. Sometimes they'll pin their ears back a little bit. Sometimes they'll avert their gaze. Sometimes they'll actually look at you, but they look at you with the expression sad puppy eyes. They sort of go like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that type of thing.
how calm he
Their
is
mouth,
now.
like right now, see, he has like a really relaxed
You'll notice
mouth.
my
His
hand is
ears are
still in
back
that
a little
puppy's
bit.
collar. I haven't let go. I hope I speak to that in the video, but if I don't, you guys get to hear. So my hand's still in his collar. And the reason for that is because if he decides to have round two and nip and bite again, I immediately have control. Now, the way I'm holding his collar right now is not in a disciplinary way. It's just simply in a calming way. I'm not giving him any corrections or anything. I'm simply just holding. But what happens is if I let go too early and he's still all fired up, I have to go through the process of like trying to get my hand in his collar again, and it's just a little awkward. So you'll notice I don't actually let go right away, but my hold and my energy is much softer with the puppy now because he's being a really good boy.
He's not holding any tension in his body. Those are the things that you're looking for, because there was a few times there where I was holding his collar and he was being still, but he was like this, like ready to go again. And if I feel that in his body, I'm just going to continue holding until I see him go, oh, okay. And at that point, it's really important that I praise. And the reason why I'm being so specific about the timing is that this is not fun to do. It's also really hard to do, which is why people struggle with it. But often I find that either people, they aren't firm enough, or they don't have good enough technique so the dog can nip and bite and then we lose our confidence. Or sometimes people discipline, the dog starts to show that like, okay, I get it. And then they don't let go. And then the puppy goes, okay, now I don't know what to do because I've showed you that I'm good, but you just keep disciplining me. Yeah. So part of it is reading the body language a little bit. Now I'm going to talk.
Okay, I see a great comment we should speak to. Back to this camera for a second.
Okay, Maggie asks, have any advice for a small dog? And I did notice when we put this up on YouTube that there was a few comments on, how do I do this for a small dog? How do I do this with a golden retriever?
Right.
How do I do this with a husky? How do I do this with a so-and-so breed? It's all the same, guys. It doesn't matter what breed of dog you have or size of dog you have. What's important to know when it comes to discipline is you need to be gentle or firm enough for that particular dog. And the way that you know you're being firm enough or you're affecting change is that you can see the puppy gets the message. I have a toy poodle, and when she was a baby puppy and doing nipping and biting, I used this exact technique that I used on the cattle dog. But obviously, I'm not going to hold quite as hard. I'm going to adapt my pressure or strength to the dog that I have. We've also owned a pit bull border collie cross in the past, and you would think, oh my God, pit bull border collie, that must be like a big strong dog, and he was physically, but mentally he was a very soft guy. And so when he nipped and bite,
Would nip and bite.
Would nip and bite. Thank you. I was like, that doesn't sound right. When he was a puppy, I would say, the first correction that I did with him was a bit strong, and like his little eyeballs I went, oh my gosh, he's a real softie. So then the next time I just went, cut it out. I was much more soft, and that's all he needed. That was it. So it's not about the breed or even the size of dog. It's about you reading the dog's response to you. And it's always good to start, softer and then move up as necessary. But the collar technique works for any dog, really. However, as your dog gets bigger, so if I was working with like a average breed dog size dog over 5 months, I wouldn't use the collar because the puppy could probably be stronger than you at that point. Then we would switch to a similar technique with the leash, but we teach that specifically inside our paid programs because there's a lot to it that we need to help you with individually. So again, it doesn't matter about the breed. You just can adapt it. And again, these are things that we do in our programs. And we have people that say, well, I'm trying this. I'm not really sure. We watch video of you. We, have one-to-ones with you, and we can say, oh, turn your wrist this way, or hold the collar this way, or you're not holding long enough, or you're releasing too quickly. And within a few minutes, we got you on track. That's the beauty of the programs versus the
V in this.
Yeah,
in this
exactly. Exactly what we did.
A lot of people are talking about their dogs nipping and biting the house line or chewing on the house line when they're wearing them.
Okay.
And that's a really common thing. I'll address it really quickly because it's sort of beside what we're focused on here, and I really want to make sure that if you're here for puppy biting, you get some thorough, great information. But your puppy, think about this. You just attached a toy to your puppy's collar. Especially if it's brand new to them, they're going to think this is the most interesting thing in the world. So it's your responsibility because their house line is only on when they're out of their crate and when you're supervising them. You interrupt the behavior. You take the house line out of their mouth. Get them to do something. Ask for a sit. Get them to go lie down. Get some effort out of them, and then give them a chew toy. It's something that they can chew on. But it is really important that you pay attention. We've got a handful of videos on the channel that talk about what to do when your puppy nips and bites on the house line, because they are going to do that. It's really, really important that you understand that that's normal.
Don't take the house line off, though.
No,
that's
no,
what
leave
people,
it on.
oh, he doesn't like it, and they take it off,
Yeah,
and now
yeah.
you're really in trouble.
For sure. Yeah, so
The novelty wears off.
Supervise, and I'll tell you, your puppy's very quickly going to even forget it's on.
Yeah.
If you address it a couple of times and they learn that, it's not a chew toy and that they're not allowed to chew on it, life gets so much easier because they just drag their little house line everywhere.
Totally.
Okay, let's get back to this. Ready?
Talk to you a little bit about the body language. He's stopping, but he's not really giving me any mind. His whole brain is on what's going on. He's accepting it, but he's not really like, sorry. He's like, okay, fine, I'll stop until the next time.
No stress yawn?
That yawn, he's not being tired. That's called a stress yawn. Okay, nothing to be worried about. Oh, good boy. That's wonderful choice.
Okay,
What
do you see
I
how
see,
I'm multitasking a little bit here? I'm engaging with V, but the whole time I'm paying attention to this puppy's body language and how he's responding to me just telling him that nipping was not appropriate. Because one thing that's really important about doing this type of work with our puppies is that we can't just say, you're wrong, you're bad, and never acknowledge when our puppies are starting to make a change, that they're starting to try to be right. And so as I was speaking to her there, I recognized that he laid down and he put his head on the floor and he sort of went into a bit more of a relaxed state. I was literally just saying to her a moment ago, he's not really totally giving into this yet because he was still like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed there in that sit. So when I saw him lay down, you'll see I acknowledged the puppy. Good boy, praise and reward, because we want to be really balanced in our information. I don't just want to give my dog one side of the story. I need to mold and shape my dog to know what they shouldn't do, but equally, or sometimes more importantly, what should they do? How should they behave in this type of scenario? And I need to do that with lots of positive feedback.
And a stress on I don't get too worried about is that I'm making progress here. He's saying, oh, I don't really like this, but I guess I can handle it. But again, when we're disciplining, it can't all be you're bad, and shaking a puppy around like a rag doll. That's not what we're going for here. I also need to take the opportunity to find some time to let him know he's right. Good. There we go.
The thing that I'm doing without even thinking
puppy.
About it, which I don't comment on the video, is every time he tries to like get away from me, you see I place him into a sit.
He's trying to make his escape now.
And I'm doing that again because I don't want him to be worried about me. I don't want him to be afraid of me. I want him to learn that I still love you. I think you're the cutest, sweetest little puppy. I just don't like your behavior. I don't like your nipping and biting. So if I discipline and he wants to get away from me and I just let him do that, I don't get the opportunity to work on the relationship piece. So I want him to be with me and stay close. And that's why it's important. You'll see I'm going to get some treats out in a second. I think you had mentioned this earlier in our talk, that it's not just you're bad, move on. It's you're bad. Yeah. But hey, let's do something together where I'm in the driver's seat. You can do something for me that's fun. You can get some rewards for it. Shake that stress away and just learn that life goes on. You don't nip. It's that simple.
Okay, let me talk to you about the leash technique. Yes, and when I'm going to feed him, I'm always going to make him turn towards me so he knows the good stuff's coming for me.
Yeah. Such a smart dog.
So we talked about the collar thing. If you need to go to the leash, which you can do at any time, you're going to hold the leash as if you're holding onto a baseball bat. So your thumbs are up, your baby fingers are down, and you're going to lift and hold like that. And then I'll be able to tell you whether you need to continue holding or whether you need to release the pressure.
One thing that I didn't show in that particular demo, because I wasn't actually correcting him there, I was just kind of showing, is the height of this puppy. I'm not a very tall person. The height of this puppy and me lifting up on the leash wasn't really good. If I was actually going to use the leash to diffuse this puppy, I would have gotten like right up on my knees or even stood all the way up, so I had some leverage. Just if anybody's taking special note of technique there, that's one thing that I would have done differently than that quick example.
Is to try, and if any time you're like, get me out of here, just pass him off and I'll take over. But I want to build your confidence so that you know what to do. Here we go. Oh, that's nice. Good. Now I'm going to intentionally take his collar right now. Yes, and reward, because I don't want him to have a meltdown when I take his collar, because I need to take his collar all the time. So you see he was a little bit worried there. So I'm going to take the food, put the food on his nose first. Did you guys notice that? Again,
reading dog body language. Can you back it up like
good. And just
there? Is that easy enough to do or no? It's okay. It's okay if it's complicated. I went to grab his collar there and he leaned away from me. And again, some people will look at that and go, oh my gosh, like you're going to make him afraid to take the collar. Right no, I'm not. I'm going to teach him that me taking your collar is okay. Yes, sometimes I'm going to take it and tell it when you're being a naughty brat. And other times I'm going to take it and tell you you're the most perfect little cute puppy in the entire world. So I have some work to do here, some recovery work. I'm taking his collar and I'm feeding. I'm taking his collar and praising him. And you'll see within just a couple treats, Zeke has a completely different feeling about me taking his collar. He's totally cool with it. So again, bringing back that idea of balancing out your information and not just being too heavy on one side.
And reward, because I don't want him to have a meltdown when I take his collar. I need to take his collar all the time. So you see he was a little bit worried there. So I'm going to take the food, put the food on his nose first this time. Now grab the hair. Yes.
The reason why I'm putting the
Good.
food on his
And
nose
just a
first is I use the treat to encourage the puppy in close so that when I reach my hand under his chin to grab the collar, his brain is on the treat and he's more comfortable with me reaching and grabbing a hold of his collar. If you do it the other way, if I reach for the collar and then I show the treat, which is something I would want to work towards, of course, you might have puppies that are a little bit more resistant. So I'm pulling a fast one here. I'm using the food to get the dog comfortable, close to me, and then I'm taking a hold of the collar. So the timing of that is very deliberate on my part. Would you stop giving kisses? Please lie down. Wait.
Associate food on nose. I'm not feeding. Take the collar first. Good boy. Yes. And then I can reward. So he starts to go, okay, maybe you're not so bad after all.
Now
How about
watch
you
when
come
I take
closer?
his collar.
And giving me little tricks too.
So this
Yes.
Oh my God,
Okay,
it was adorable. So again, look at the change in the puppy. 15 seconds ago, he was trying to run away from me. He was trying to get back to V. He was stress yawning. I literally took 15 seconds to do a little couple little easy things, and now he's offering a paw, he's offering it down. He's like, okay, I can get behind this. This is why this training is so important. You're clear with what you need to do. You'll also see I'm not being emotional about it. I'm not being angry. I'm not being emotional. I'm just being clear. And that's what our puppies needs, because mother dogs are not emotional when they discipline their puppies. They just get her done. They take the emotion aside because they're animals, they're dogs, and we need to adopt the same things. Humans have a terrible natural thing of being so emotional when it comes to this, and it just doesn't jive with how puppies need to learn.
It's not good information.
No, and in fact, in a lot of cases, it makes it worse.
What's actually really lovely about this puppy is his recovery
He just sat
is
up
He's
into the
amazing.
collar room.
excellent.
He's amazing.
Sometimes when you first start applying pressure and discipline,
Look at him.
he's trying
So-
all of the things. You're so sweet. Yes. When you try discipline for the first time, if the puppies are, a little bit selfish in it for themselves, you go to discipline, then they want nothing to do with you. The fact that he doesn't have any relationship with me whatsoever. I've come in, doesn't know me, I've disciplined him, and he's sort of going, okay, I think I can move on. It means you have a really great puppy. And sometimes what happens when puppies are biting, we think, oh my gosh, this is so frustrating. He's awful. He is a typical bratty young puppy that doesn't know any better. And being a cattle dog, they can be a little bit tenacious sometimes,
You're tenacious, you're strong.
but they also can be super duper fun because they have tons of energy. They want to do stuff. So if you can kind of get them on the right track, they're like way more fun than having a bump on a log for a dog. Like he's going to want to do stuff, right? But we just got to get
Sometimes
them
I don't know
organized.
what comes out of my mouth.
And I would-
Bump on a log,
Bump
for,
on
a
a log
dog.
for a dog?
It's so weird.
Okay, now it's V's turn to
Yes.
work on this exercise a little bit and watch the change in the puppy's behavior.
hold him a little firmer. There we go. Okay, just hold on for a
So I
second.
don't have his scruff. I just have his
Yeah,
collar.
that's okay. And if you feel like he can move around too much, you are going to grab his scruff. The scruff does not hurt him at all because all extra fur he's going to grow into anyways.
just like his mom would have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So see how he just gnawed there?
I couldn't help myself but stepping.
Do you at home have a puppy who will be goofy and silly and nipping and biting and chewing and jumping and doing all the bad stuff with one family member, and then a total angel with?
Just getting to the
Okay,
good
I
stuff.
think we're back. If you have, okay, I think we're
Yay.
back. Good. So I'm not sure where we ended off. I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll figure it out. So you're gonna see. Did you guys have a chance? Did you hear when I asked if anybody at home has a dog who is a little angel with one family member and an absolute terror with another? Now that we're back. Oh, Sam. Wrong chord, buddy.
You
He's
were
always
asking
doing
a
that.
question.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, do
Thanks,
you-
Sparkle.
Do you have a situation at home where puppy's an angel with one family member and an absolute terror with another? That's exactly what we're seeing here for a moment, because this puppy understands what Kale's expectations are, what the rules are with Kale, and now he goes back to his owner V, and he's like, maybe I can test the waters here a little bit, and watch V work through this. A very smart little puppy.
Give him a little shake for that too. Okay, take
Okay.
over.
Now,
got it, yeah.
the reason why I stepped in and grabbed the puppy from V is the puppy was kind of nipping and biting her, not actually making contact, but kind of threatening V, and V didn't really react, and so it's in my bones to just react. So I went in there a little quickly because timing is so important. You can't let the dog nip and bite and then start to full on tug on your arm and then do something about it. You're trying to react really quickly. So that's why I stepped in so fast there.
Feel settled. Release the scruff, but don't release the collar.
I wonder if
Yes,
should
you can
go
hold
back
the
just a
collar now.
second, 'cause
Good.
that
Now
was
lift
sort
him
of
up. Don't let him do that.
broken.
Too much, you are going to grab a scruff. The scruff does not hurt him at all because all extra fur he's going to grow into
Yeah,
anyways.
just like his mom would
See,
have.
he went to bite her wrist there.
So see how he just gnawed there?
Mhm.
I would give him a little shake for that too. Okay, take
Okay.
over. You got it. Yep. Good. And then if he feels settled, release the scruff, but don't release the collar. Yep, you can hold the collar now. Good. Now lift him up. Don't let him do that. Right
So,
up. Quick, 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 quick.
Zeke was
Yep,
about
good,
to
good, good.
try
Lift him up,
a
okay? Just up to his sort of sitting or
avoidance
standing.
technique
Yep,
of flipping
perfect.
over.
Ooh, look
So
at you with the opposite
I'm
hand.
having
Good, good, good. Good. Okay, you can release your tension a little bit. Just praise him with your voice. Good boy.
Nice.
Good. Okay, don't let go with this hand. You can let him lie down now. And the reason why it's okay, do you feel the tension leaving his body now?
Just woosah.
Did
Yeah.
you lay down that time? There. Good. Okay, bring him out in front of you. The going to the beside is a bit of an avoidance thing as well. There. Okay, keep holding his collar. Good. Good. Okay, I'm going to give
I
you a
had
little
to
treat.
lean over to make sure there was no.
I might have
nipping
taken the
going
wind
on
out of
there.
his sails a little bit. Here, you can feed him so that the good stuff comes from you. Good boy. Good. Okay, that was pretty good. You could be a little firmer.
Okay.
Okay, but it's because you haven't really done it yet. Whenever we go through this with people, people are always worried about hurting the dog. It's not in your nature to hurt him. You would never do it firm enough to hurt him. So
Yeah.
that is not a concern. So don't worry about that.
She's just doing an incredible job. So it's just important that you keep the puppy out in front when you're doing this, because a lot of dogs will kind of go behind you or they'll do different things. So what she's doing with the puppy right now is excellent.
I had a question from LG.
It's out again.
Oh, no, we're good. What do you do if the puppy starts nipping the kids? Great question.
Yeah. So this discipline technique is absolutely not something that we would have the kids perform on the puppies. This is only for adults to do. And the reason for that is because we want to make sure that the adults are able to do it with good technique and good timing. They can follow through, read the puppy's body language, be strong enough to do it. Otherwise, if kids try to discipline the puppy and they're not old enough or they're not strong enough or any of the reasons, what happens is when you discipline a puppy and you don't do it well, it just confirms to the puppy that you are absolutely not a strong leader. So when it comes to kids specifically, what we would have you do is, number one, always supervise when puppies and kids are together. Number two, have your kids use a command that means the puppy needs to stop biting. It could be knock it off. It could be stop, whatever is appropriate for your kid. And then they need to freeze and be quiet and still. Even turn around from the puppy if needed. And then mom or dad need to fly in within milliseconds, get the house line, and then they follow through with the discipline. So remember earlier in the chat, I talked about how important it is to have a verbal reprimand and then that backed up with discipline. Your kid is going to be the one that does the verbal reprimand, but you're going to back up their verbal with the discipline, and that's going to help give your kids a little bit more credibility. And I would follow the same process for neighbors, friends, anybody that comes into the home. I would not expect anybody other than the adults in the household to be doing this with your puppy.
The collar with this hand. Keep your grip. Maybe try holding on to one of his paws.
Paw?
Yeah, good. So then see when he did that. Give him a little shake like that when he does that. Okay. Knock it off. Good. Okay, try again.
Paw?
Knock it off.
And that's a really common time for a
Good.
puppy
Okay, this
to
time
nip
don't
and
ask
bite.
him for the paw. Just simply pick it up. Yep. Good. Good. Good.
Like my thing, like
So I
my,
know he's not actually
reactions.
It's a little bit
full-on
slow, but it's
biting
okay.
her, but he's threatening her. He's basically telling her, "Bug off! I don't want you to do this to me right now."
You're getting better every time. Good at that. Look at that. Good. You're making some change. Good. Good. Now just take a hold of it again.
The paw.
Yep. Yes.
Good
Good. Very good
Oh,
boy.
he's so cute.
Okay, take a hold again. Yes.
Oh, I love that. You can
Eye
see him.
contact.
You can see him choose. Like you can see him make the
Yeah.
decision. He's like, no, I know there's a better.
Yeah, and you see, we've had to correct him. We've had to redirect him several times here in order for him to get the message, but we're just continuing to be clear and consistent. Again, not emotional. We're just trying to show him what we don't like. And then as soon as we see a glimmer of him going, that's not working for me, but maybe this will work, we're on it so fast to reward him. And then because this guy likes love and he likes treats and he likes praise, you can see him starting to go, okay, I can see how I work this situation. It's from being subtle, being calm, giving mom eye contact. That earns me reinforcement rewards. Such a smart little guy, but they're all smart because we have to give them good information. They all can figure it out.
We're going into overtime here right now.
Okay.
I
think we probably wrapped
We
up. most of
might
it.
miss the 840. You guys can thank Sam for that.
More time for Cinnabons.
He unplugged the live streaming setup to plug in the vacuum cleaner, and then he flipped the breaker box. He's cleaning out the breaker
What a
box.
guy.
Anyway, we'll be here a little bit longer. You guys can thank Sam for making us late.
I actually really
Thanks,
like that
Sam.
he gave you eye contact there. I'm going to actually put this beside you here so you can grab it. Okay, grab his paw again.
Yeah.
You guys can watch this video in
Good.
its
No,
entirety.
no
on,
mouthing. So even if he
YouTube, of
mouths,
course.
knock it off.
Okay.
Don't wait till you get full-blown teeth. Because if you wait until he's actually gnawing,
Yeah.
you're going to have to do big discipline. If he just threatens you, hey, you can just give a little one.
Okay,
The goal is to
so
only have to do little ones.
If he's like sniffing my hands,
Sniffing is okay. But if he like open mouths towards you, that's okay.
I couldn't see his mouth from
Yeah,
where it was
that's good.
sitting.
Good.
This is really important, though. Like, where do you draw your line in the sand? And clarity is key.
Yeah.
No teeth on skin or clothes, period. Sniffing, licking, maybe that's okay.
Yeah.
Sniffing's obviously okay.
But
like,
I would go one step further. I don't even wait for teeth.
Totally.
I'm looking.
opening your mouth.
Yeah, he's like, just like
totally.
he's what we call threatening. And to me, his intent is still to try to say, I don't really like this. And so I'm not just disciplining nipping, I'm disciplining him saying, I don't respect you. I feel like I can control you with my mouth or whatever it might be. So yeah, you want to draw a clear line, as Ken said. It's so important.
Good. And then just like a nitpicky timing thing, it would be ideal is as you're holding his paw and he's not giving a reaction to say yes at that moment so that
Okay.
you're sort of capturing that moment. Let's try one more time. Hold that paw again. That's it. Good. There.
focuses on
Yes.
you.
It's okay.
I gave him a pretty
yes,
firm
good.
there.
Go ahead and reward
And so
him.
now
Just
he's
go
like,
ahead.
oh, there's that girl that
Right.
I know isn't a leader.
Nice. Good.
I need to
and then
listen
let's
to
release
her.
him and give him a break for a second. Good. That was pretty good, Bud
He did
Bud.
pretty great.
When you're going to touch his paws or
So talk a little bit about clear expectations, and you covered that. Something
Yeah.
that I don't think we covered in this part of the video, but you can watch the original video on the channel, is
You can get rid of that.
he is a cattle dog.
Yeah.
A breed. That's a dog that's rough and tough,
Yeah.
made to, be functioning, herding, moving under the feet of livestock. So, don't be surprised if this takes a little bit of effort. It's probably might not be fixed the first time you work on this because you have a dog who just is so intense about everything that they do. Now, even if it's not a cattle dog, your Labrador retrievers were bred to crash through the ice and the cattails and the thrush to get out to the water. I mean, all of these dogs come from, with an interesting background. The breed was intended to, support, do hard work, support human, efforts in a lot of cases. So, when it doesn't happen for you, you're like, well, I don't know. It's obviously not working. Your dog was bred to be a little bit resistant to some of this stuff. So when you do these corrections and you're working through these exercises, focus on the combination of leadership and the correction stuff, because the correction alone, it's going to be a long road. But incorporating some of the leadership stuff, like shoot for 3 or 4 things that you would just not do with your dog if you're having a nipping and biting problem and you're working on this.
If I was having a nipping and biting problem, I would be not getting down on the floor and roughhousing and playing rough with my puppy, or getting my eye line and my head level down to the puppy's level. I would never do that.
Because you look so much like a playmate.
And it's too easy to be my face can be too much of a target. And if I'm down low and I'm trying to roughhouse and I'm showing the puppy littermate, later on you can do that. I play with my dogs all the time now. But they know that they can play with me without ever putting their mouth on me. So again, a lot of these rules you don't have to have forever. You just need to have during the puppy nipping stage until you're through it. Another thing that I would do with the puppy is I would never have my puppy out of their crate without a leash or a line on, so that if they do anything that I don't like, I have a way to calmly gain control without chasing the puppy, without having to, raise my energy or have the puppy take off and avoid me. I would always have a leash or line on. Another thing that I wouldn't do is I guess this is something that I would do, is I utilize a crate when I can't supervise my puppy. And why this is relative to nipping and biting is because I can't supervise and be on top of my puppy every single second of the day. It would be so frustrating for me and for the puppy. So my goal is that when my puppy's out, I'm giving good information, I'm training, I'm tiring the puppy out, playing lots of things, building relationship, and then puppy goes away in the crate so they can't rehearse bad behavior. And then when I get my puppy out again, we kind of rinse, wash, and repeat, do the whole thing again. So utilizing that crate really helps with leadership. It's not just about house training. It's also about teaching the puppy not to be, not to nip and bite. Another thing that I would do is work on calming techniques, so that as my puppy is excited or making poor choices, I could have the ability to tell my puppy to sit, to settle, maybe to go and lie on a bed, maybe to go get a bone, whatever it might be. So I have a little bit more verbal control over my puppy from there. Another thing, my hair
Kale's got even more.
My hair went flying. Another thing that I wouldn't do is repeat myself. I wouldn't give commands over and over and over and over again and hope one day that they respond. I follow through. So if I say something to my puppy and my puppy doesn't do it, I say to myself, probably doesn't know this very well. I'll help my puppy to be right. Or my puppy's flat out ignoring me right now. I need to do something about it. I don't just keep giving my puppy 100 chances before they come around to listen. I do want to say this. As I'm watching the chat go through, I'm seeing a lot of really excellent questions. Like you guys are really thinking about this in an excellent way, which is exciting to us. And I don't want to make this seem like a sales pitch, but I do want to honestly say, I love the questions that you're asking, and we can give you such specific answers to your puppies when we get to know you and your puppies.
That's what's difficult about YouTube for
Yes, and that's what I love so much about the program, is because we love engaging with you guys on YouTube, and this stream has been absolutely excellent. I'm imagining it's going to be a really popular one for us to reference, but we can get so specific with you about what to do when your puppy does this and what to do that in our Puppy Essentials program. So if you're on the fence about it, I encourage you to check it out. The support that we have in the program is amazing. Our instructors are absolutely incredible. And you're going to be joined by all kinds of students that are literally dealing with the same thing. We have a support group where everybody asks questions. So not only do you get to ask questions and interact with the instructor, you also get to see all of the other people and the questions they ask. And a lot of the time it's things that you've never even thought of. And then you see that interaction, you go, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. Now I've learned more. So I definitely suggest that you check it out. It's a very comprehensive program, and we can really help you individually.
Moments of truth with Julie. What if you've tried these and the dog's still doing it? What are your other suggestions? You might be technique, might be.
I guarantee you, there's something that you're doing a little bit wrong.
Yeah. And it's what's hard
because these techniques work for every. I've never seen ever in my all
Yeah.
of the years that I've been doing this, I've never seen our techniques not work for a dog. And when we are able to watch it in action, there's always something super subtle that's off with the person and the dog. And if you change those one or two things, it's like totally different. So that's my answer.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's the kind of thing that will speed up all of your training, build a better relationship with your puppy, allow you to like be able to play, have the experience with your puppy and young dog that you wanted to have by getting a little bit of information that's right for you and your dog. It's hard to not make it sound like a sales pitch, but because we know how valuable it is. We've seen lots of people in the comments say like, oh,
Yeah.
this is, you know, I was an online student, or I'm an online student, and it's worth it.
And
Because it is.
I do want to say we were talking a little bit about online because for a lot of the time, most of you who are not within driving distance of our school. But we also have this program in person online where you literally, we sit with you and work with you face to face.
Join us in person.
Yeah, and our classes for this session just opened today, actually. And then we have Puppy Essentials starting every couple of weeks. So if you check out where our location is and you're within driving distance, then come to our actual school. And
Yeah, if you're
see
watching,
us.
if you're watching this live, call now.
Yeah.
Call now, because our office is closed. We have trainers in the office until 9:30 tonight.
Yeah.
And reserve your spot in training. Now, we have talked a lot about your puppy biting challenges. We talked a lot about leadership. These are the kinds of things that will allow you to enjoy your experience with your puppy. Stop the frustration. You know, it's so frustrating when it's not going right. And with a little bit of guidance, putting into practice some of the things that we've talked about tonight, you can have the puppy of your dreams. It's so close. And we want
And then
that for you.
it's so fun. Once you get past
Yeah.
the nipping stage,
Yeah.
it's so fun.
Yeah, I if we can get lots of links, maybe you can drop the link to the full video in the chat here, and we'll post it in the description of this video if you're watching this at a later date. But it is worth watching the whole thing. For you, if you're struggling with puppy biting, it's a bit of a
Definitely.
refresher. And keep in mind some of the things that we've talked about. Right on cue, McCann Dogs Music is live right now on our McCann Dogs Music channel at the end of tonight's stream.
it.
You'll be given an opportunity to click the button and head over there if you have a dog who's a little bit sensitive to environmental sounds, or you're working on something like crate training or separation anxiety, all these kinds of challenges that you might have with your dog. McCann Dogs Music, we work with digital music creators to create music that's just right for those kinds of situations, so you can check that out. Treat pouches back in stock. Check out
Finally.
McCannDogs.store to get your treat pouch. Puppy Tugs, I think I've pinned it in the thing. It's our favorite puppy training tool to work on nipping and biting, but also to have some fun with your pup. But with all of the teaching, all of the training, all of the things that we've talked about tonight, the rest, my friends, well, that is up to you.